Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community is classic cars. These are cars made on either 1979 or earlier. I can't remember what the rules were for this, honest. I think there are a few banned cars as well to make things more interesting so I don't see lots of the same vehicles. Anyway, round one was at the Road Atlanta long circuit. We're currently following Daniel's car. Daniel actually made it for this race. For a couple of these races actually, which is amazing. Husky, by the way, is driving the orange Chevy Nova. I think you can just about see in the background there. Anyway, as we run down the hill, there is an almighty lag spike, and Daniel manages to do a front flip in his Escort. I had to include that just for the front flip. The very stylish front flip, although sadly that means that his car is now broken. There was quite a lot of lag and quite a few broken cars in the first lap here, which is never good. You never want to see that. Unfortunately, that's what lag can do to a race. Hopefully, Forza 5, please don't let there be such terrible lag problems. Anyway, as we carry on with the race, this is battle for third at this point. We have a Jaguar E-Type, a Toyota 2000 GT, and assorted other vehicles in there. There's a Ferrari Dino, I think, somewhere, and the Jaguar is going to get what looks like a fairly straightforward pass into the final chicane. The Toyota's trying to come back at him a little bit. There's all a concertina effect on the grass, and some things get knocked about. Don't think anyone was too badly broken, although there was a BMW convertible that suddenly vanished out of sight. He may have taken a knock in all of that and damaged his engine. I've done that there as well. A very small crash through that section, you can damage your engine quite heavily. Anyway, in the background there's a Ferrari Dino, I think, was trying to find its way past to something else. This is a couple of laps later, or a lap later, I'm not sure, and they're still all squabbling over these sort of midfield positions. I think this is for around 4th, 5th or 6th, I think even. Husky's Chevy is now kind of caught up with this lot, and as they come onto the back straight, it's all about the straight line speed. Again, these cars are B-class, which means that you can build them in very, very different ways. Unsurprisingly, the Nova was pretty damn quick. Not as fast in a straight line as I was expecting it would have been, but still faster than the cars that it is around. And as we come down towards the final chicane, Husky's going to try and be brave, go around the outside of the Saab as they come into the first part, then he'll be on the inside for the next part. However, he can't get his car quite stopped. Not sure if there's a bit of a nudge as well that just unsettled the Nova, and now he ends up with I think it's a Fairlady Z trying to go around the outside into the final corner. Always very scary to go too wide through there. Somehow they both get away with it. In the end, Husky's car comes out on top. Yeah, that final corner is terrifying to be going too wide. If you can do it, it is quite a good overtaking spot, but yeah, it's pretty damn scary, especially if you've got a big slidey muscle car on your inside. Anyway, they were still battling. This was by far the best action on track that there was. They were trying to go 3 wide. That's never, it very rarely works, as it going 3 wide into any corner, really, except for maybe on a NASCAR oval, then you can go 3 or 4 wide, but no, everybody got away with it there. And then again, it is the straight line duel, and this Fairlady Z was struggling a little bit with straight line speed. Road Atlanta has got a very, very long straight, and straight line speed is very, very useful. This BMW though had many speeds. It was incredibly fast in a straight line. This time he's going to go around the outside of Husky, and then he's on the inside for the next part. Runs a little bit wide, and he's got the Nova back on his inside as well. It's very easy to end up running a little bit too wide if you try that manoeuvre there. And then I don't really know what happens. Everything goes wrong for everybody. A bit of a laggy Toyota, I think, gets involved, and there is an almighty smash up that well, Daniel's Ford was involved, but he was just kind of collected in the crash. It wasn't his fault. There's now the very fast BMW stuck on its side. There's a Saab on its roof. Daniel's car can't move, and then gets collected by I'm not even sure what that was, a Camaro or a Trans Am of some description, not sure. Some muscle car comes flying into them. This laggy incidences, a very annoying occurrence, but not a huge amount you can do about it. And yeah, there were some stricken cars in not a fantastic place. At the front, I wasn't having things all my own way. I was driving the Lotus Cortina. I'd started 3rd, and by the first corner I think I was in the lead. This thing is incredibly fast accelerating, but it doesn't weigh anything. It's like 1,770-ish pounds. It's incredibly light, very, very fast accelerating. However, it does only have a couple of hundred horsepower, and straight line speed was really no match for this Aston Martin that was, well, incredibly fast down this very long straight, but of course doesn't quite have the handling of the Lotus, so I could just about hold him off as we come into the final chicane. My kind of race at this point was basically I had to make up enough time through the corners to be far enough ahead of the Aston Martin by the time we got to the chicane so that I could kind of retain the lead. I had absolutely no chance against that thing in a straight line. It was a monster. I had to kind of hope and pray that I could make up enough time, not have too many, well, not have any mistakes through these corners as I run a little bit wide, which is what I really didn't need to do. Luckily the Aston Martin has a big slide as well. It was suddenly a slightly different, more tactical battle almost with this one, as yeah, I couldn't defend from the Aston Martin because the one place is going to get me is at the end of the straight, and the car that is much faster in a straight line has a much easier job of overtaking, so you can't defend against that. We could weave over the road, but that's a bit of a douchebag move, so I wasn't going to do that. And so yeah, I'm going to try and make up as much time as I could through the corners. I think this is on the final lap, and I thought everything had gone wrong there. I clipped the curb a little bit too much, get myself up on two wheels. I didn't roll it, which is good. I actually did especially soften the suspension on this car to make sure it didn't roll it. In practice, I'd flipped it an awful lot. So it didn't roll, but I had lost an awful lot of time, and now I knew I was in a little bit of trouble. You see the Aston Martin is again sliding all over the place in the background. I know that I am now in considerable trouble as I don't have the lead that I want. Doesn't help. I think we both ran a little bit wide over the curb there. Now I got about a 200-foot lead. I have huge acceleration off that final corner. However, top speed I don't have, and now I'm in trouble. I know that this is going to be very hard to defend, as the Aston Martin is going to be coming like a train, as it is stupidly fast in a straight line. I go to the inside, but it's not going to do much good as the Aston Martin goes flying past. He tries to go a little bit defensive. I managed to find the gap, and the superior brakes on the Cortina means that I can retain the position just about. There's a bit of tyre smoke and sliding going on from the Aston as well. Yeah, I wouldn't say a bit lucky. My car has incredible brakes. I got away with it is probably the best way of putting things. And then the Aston Martin clipped the tyre bundle on the final lap, and he too ends up on his roof in the collection of vehicles on that corner. That corner claims very many victims. There we go. I think that was English. I'm not sure though. Anyway, we move on to race 2 at my favourite circuit, or one of my favourite circuits. On Forza 4, it is the Infineon NASCAR circuit. Again, the game was very kind to me. I ended up starting I think it was third again, and was first by the end of the second corner. Daniel's Escort is around somewhere, as is Husky's Nova. We're following somebody. This guy here started on 12th on the grid, right near the back. I think there's only 13 people in this race. The internet was being a little bit of a pain, you know, well, the Forza service, should I say. You know what it's like. For those who play Forza regularly, everything then all went very chaotic through this corner. One of the escorts, I think, got tangled with a pacer. Daniel ended up in the wall, and I think he did that on his own. I'm not sure, though. And in the end, out of all of it, this Firebird, which we're following, went from 12th to 4th after 5 or 6 corners. That's pretty damn impressive. Well done for staying out of all of the trouble and managing to make it through the, well, it was a rather large mess. No one was too terminally broken in that, I don't think. There was just some aero damage. I think Daniel might have suffered quite a bit with his collision with the wall. I think he ended up pitting as well. The Jag tried to have a look into the very fast corner, gets a little bit too sideways, does well to save it. The Firebird also takes that corner too fast. That is a really nasty corner. I do like driving that corner, but it's a pretty big pain in the arse to get that one right. So Husky now finds himself up into, I believe, 4th, as everybody else files through the hairpin. Great overtake is what that hairpin, as I think there's a Dino was making up a position. There's an Aston Martin was now battling it out with a Jaguar, and a Dino's trying to get past a pacer. Not the normal thing you say when talking about a race. Very rare you see a Ferrari Dino racing against an AMC pacer. Although a Jaguar E-Type versus a Aston Martin DB4, I think it is. That's a little bit more plausible, at least. These two are both now catching back up to the Firebird again. This is a bad place to be catching up to somebody you don't really want to be trying to overtake through, especially not a big slidey muscle car or any big slidey vehicle of any sort. As the Aston Martin runs a little bit wide, the Jaguar thought it saw half a chance and got things a little bit wrong and ends up out on the dirt. It's very tough to go too wide through these corners in cars which do not have a lot of grip. You have to know exactly what you're doing and have plenty of grip if you want to be trying to go too wide through there. Again, this action was, well, I think this is for around 5th, I think this lot is. This is the best action going on track at the moment. as the Dino goes all the way around the second corner. That is very, very hard to do. Still not got the move done though, as the Aston Martin tries to fight back, and again he goes around the outside at the top of the hill. For me, that's got to be overtake of the afternoon. To go around the outside of somebody twice, around two very, very tough corners. It's very good driving from the pair of them as well, to not to run into each other. As we come up towards, again, you can overtake here. I thought he was going to try to go around the outside, but he doesn't. Instead, he does a nice little cutback. Again, one of the easier moves to try and pull on this circuit. However, the Firebird is very, very fast, and he tries to come back at him. I think there's a little bit of contact there. They both end up on the grass, and again, you can't really go too wide through there. You can with two very good handling cars if you've got enough downforce and enough grip, but yeah, it's kind of tricky to try and fit two cars through those very, very fast corners. It was the battle of the muscle cars in second place, as Husky's Nova just about gets past the Stingray, who then fights back with a nice little cutback as Husky runs a little bit wide. This corner, as I said, a good overtaking spot. You can go around the outside, but it's unlikely to happen in a big, heavy, slidey muscle car, as you kind of need quite a lot of grip to manage to get away with that one. And then it's into the fast, twisty corners. My Cortina loved these corners. I'm not sure the muscle cars were having quite as much fun through here. The Stingray just gets a little bit wide, just gets a little bit too sideways, and Husky doesn't need another invitation. And there you go. As I said, you can pass through here. I would say Husky was a little bit lucky. You see the gap, you see the Stingray make a little bit of a mistake, and then you pounce on that mistake. It is very, very tough to overtake through those fast corners. I see a lot of people trying when they probably shouldn't be. It's much better to follow somebody through there and then have a dive at the hairpin. Admittedly, it will cost you a little bit more time. You'd have to wait behind them a little bit more patiently, but you lose a lot less time doing that than you do if you have a big crash. This was another big battle that was raging on. This is for 5th. I'm trying to remember. I can never remember. There's so much action going on, and the Ferrari Dino proves me kind of wrong. There we go. Someone goes round the outside there, and then you are on the inside for the next corner. That Ferrari is blooming quick. I don't know, he was a long way down at the end of the first lap, and he has made up quite a lot of places. The Aston Martin, though, isn't finished with him. The Aston Martin is trying to find a way back. I suspect the Aston is a little bit quicker in a straight line, doesn't have all the big aero parts, and now he's trying to find his way back past the Dino, and it's not far to the Lincoln. Well done to the guy driving the Lincoln, who is still in 4th. That's pretty damn impressive. Wasn't expecting that car to do very well, but yeah, he was up in 4th, although it wasn't going to be long before the Ferrari and the Aston Martin found their way past, although that's not exactly surprising. There is also a very bizarre replay glitch going on right now. It's Minecraft doing tyre smoke, and I'm not sure why it's doing it. I'm confused. I don't know what's going on, and very odd glitch. Never seen that one before on the replays. As far as I'm aware, it wasn't actually doing it during the race. Nobody said anything about it, so I presume it wasn't. So it's an odd replay mess up, but anyway, the Ferrari and Aston, fairly straightforward pass on the Lincoln. Not exactly surprising, that Lincoln is massive thing. However, the Ferrari runs a little bit wide through one of the fast corners. Now the Aston Martin's looking for his opportunity to get back past. They're going to go too wide through this very fast corner. It's incredibly scary. You don't want to do that too often, and the Ferrari just has enough grip to maintain the position, and the Aston Martin's still trying to find a way. The Ferrari actually very defensive into the last corner, maybe a little bit too defensive, and then there is much Minecraft tyre smoke. That's very odd. That is very bizarre indeed. And still the two of them are fighting over what is now 4th position. The Aston Martin looks like he's going to try and go around the outside into the first corner again. It's tough overtaking in these first couple of corners through here. You often see many incidences on these. However, the Aston Martin can't quite get it done, and the Ferrari manages to retain, that's the word I was looking for, the position. It was a great little battle between these two for the last 3 or 4 laps of this race. It was thoroughly enjoyable to watch as well on the replays. In the end, the Ferrari gets the better of the two. At the front though, as there is more Minecraft tyre smoke in the background, I had a very straightforward race, really. I had led by the second corner and just drove away from everybody. This Cortina is incredibly fast compared to, well, the competition that was here. He's a very good car. Husky was quite a long way back in second in his Nova, and Daniel was an awful long way back after having to take a trip through the pits. Not even sure he finished, not even sure if he did finish, with a fairly broken Escort. So yeah, the Cortina was a very good car. We move on to race 3 now at the Catalunya National Circuit. The first corner here is terrifying. This track is a good one for overtaking. I am not a fan of this first corner though, especially if you are a long way back. It's a very tricky to get your car stopped and try and see what's going on in front of you. However, everybody gets through the first corner relatively safely. There's a little bit of paint swapping going on further back. There's a Ford Country boat in the mix for reasons of, I don't know, silliness probably. Yeah, there's a little bit of contact going on further back, but everybody gets through the first corner relatively safely. This time I have another Cortina to play with, and another considerably different built Cortina, as you can just see from looking at it. And yeah, the Cortinas are very fast for this race. I probably should have banned them. I didn't realise they were going to be so blooming quick. I just like them because, for the same reason I like the Lotus Carlton, they're just a little bit silly, or for the time they were pretty mental things, and that's why I used one. I didn't realise they were going to be quite this quick. I'm also surprised at the lack of the Escort Mark IIs. I was expecting to see a lot more of them, as I know they can be pretty damn quick if built correctly. Either way, I was under quite a lot of pressure from my my fellow Cortina, and was having to defend quite heavily as we come into the chicane. However, the one advantage, the big advantage which I had, is I had the straight line speed. You can see the other Cortina has got quite a lot of downforce, it's got all the downforce parts. I presume it is running a more handling setup, and while my car is a little bit difficult to control, it's a little bit slidey, it does have that extra straight line speed, which, as I've said before, is very, very useful. The car that's faster in the straight line, it's easy to defend with, and it's easier to overtake with, although it might not be the quickest car over the course of the lap. So I could hold on to my first position, even if I may have outbraked myself a little bit into the final corner. Also, don't ask why I kept the green on the car. I don't know, I just thought it looked a little bit different. So that's why it's still got the green kind of stripe on it. Further back, this was an ugly looking bunch of cars, all kind of squabbling over the lower half of the top 10. Again, we had some internet connection problems, and yeah, I don't know why. We couldn't get the full 16 people. I think there's only 12 running in this race. Husky couldn't get connected, Daniel had to go. Yeah, there was an awful lot of internet problems. But anyway, if I was driving the 250 GTO, I'd be a little bit scared seeing two Daytonas right behind me. These things are massive. Just in every dimension, these things are huge, especially when you've got two of them chasing you. Again, another example of the downforce versus lesser with the downforce. The guy without all of the aero parts, much faster in a straight line. Could be, again, you know, how you build your car is always important. Maybe someone went for more handling parts, more engine parts. I don't know how people build their cars. Either way, it's a fairly straightforward pass at the end of the straight. The first corner here is really good for overtaking. If you've driven the track, if you know what you're doing, it's a very, very good spot for overtaking. But I'm not a massive fan of it due to, well, the lack of braking boards, and especially at the start, it can be pretty mental. Anyway, while we were watching the Daytonas overtaking each other, there had been a change for the lead. I think I may have run a little bit wide somewhere and dropped back to second place. But I now had the long straight coming up, and while my car is faster in a straight line, it also helps when the leader runs a little bit wide on the final corner, and then it's fairly straightforward for me to manage to pull my car up alongside. Just see the amount of straight line speed advantage I have. It's not sort of massive, it's not the Aston Martin compared to my Cortina, but it's enough to make things not too tricky for me when it comes to this long straight. The Black Cortina tries to have a look at a bit of a comeback. I cover the inside. This time I don't outbrake myself, which is always useful, and he cannot manage to get a cutback. But now I've got to defend for the rest of the lap, as the rest of the lap is fairly tight and twisty. We come up towards the hill. Cortina, we're trying to go too wide. This is another place you don't really want to be going too wide at the top of this hill. It's a little bit scary. I have to back off a little bit because I know how my car is kind of slidey. The other guy can keep his foot in, but can't quite get the move done. Come through the very, very fast chicane. That's quite a nasty corner as well. And now I have the straight line speed. I have just enough of an advantage to get a little bit of breathing space as we come in towards the hairpin. Another very good overtaking spot. Further back in third and fourth, I think this is. Yes, in fact it is. I do remember what was going on in this race. The Aston Martin had been catching up to the Camaro. A very unusual matchup, these two. Also, the wing on the Aston Martin is humongously silly. The Forza wings on some of these cars, especially on some of the Aston Martins. I think it's the V8. It's the V8 Vantage. But the wing is absolutely ridiculously massive. It's like wider than, quite a lot wider than the car. It's a very, very silly wing. Anyway, as they run onto the straight, we know the Aston Martin is mighty fast in a straight line. We saw that at Road Atlanta, though the Camaro is not bad either. And with all the downforce parts on the Aston Martin, it doesn't quite have the massive straight line speed advantage. However, it does have the handling advantage. You see how much it closed up under brakes there. That's a massive amount of time. It's got just on the brakes into the first corner, and they are back to being nose to tail as they go on to do the rest of the lap. And it wasn't going to be long before the Aston Martin was going to try and make his move. As he go in towards the hairpin, he's going to stick it on the inside, try and outbrake the Camaro. Managed to get the move done. However, somehow, I'm not sure how he did it, and credit to him, the Camaro manages to go right round the outside, and then he's got the inside for the next corner. The Aston Martin has to yield. I really don't know how on earth the Camaro got away with that one. Must have just got a bit better drive. It looked like he was wheel spinning, but you can never tell with Forza replays, and I doubt if he was sliding that much, he would have been able to retain the position. But the Aston Martin is all over the back of him as they go into the chicane. It's pretty much single file through here. It's very rare to see an overtaking manoeuvre through there without somebody jumping the curbs. That's another common occurrence on this track. As they run onto the straight, the Camaro just gets a little bit too much sideways, and that's not what you want as you run down the start-finish straight. And then is the drag race to the first corner. These cars are incredibly evenly matched. They are really very, very close. The Aston Martin is just a fraction quicker. However, on the brakes, of course, the Aston Martin is considerably better than the Camaro. He tries to go around the outside again, but he was never likely to stick through there, and he's going to have to settle for the 4th place. It was a good race between these two as well, actually. There wasn't an awful lot going on elsewhere, in all honesty. It was mostly this battle and the battle at the front. Yeah, not much else was happening. I'm not sure if it was through damage or what, but anyway, yeah, back to the front, and we were still scrapping over the lead. Full country squire falls off the road there. I love that shot. I should point out, in all fairness, that I did make a fairly large error on the final corner, ran out wide and across the dirt and lost a fair bit of time, and the guy in the black Cortina wanted a race, so he slowed down to let me catch up. So this shouldn't really be as close as it was, in all fairness. Anyways, you see, as we came through the chicane, I got the first part fairly wrong. I went a little bit too wide through the first part of that, and I now had a long way to go to catch up to him as we come on to the final lap. I know I have the advantage in the straight line, however, I have, I think it's like 150, 200 foot lead to try and make up, and that's pretty damn tricky. My car wasn't quite that quick, so I knew I had to get everything right on this lap if I was to stand a chance, and I got it all wrong into the first corner. Just braked a little bit too late and ended up running into the back of the Cortina. Of course, I'm a good what should I call it, racer, in the sense that I'll wait for him. As it was my fault, I got it wrong. I'm not sure if I locked a brake up or not, can't really tell. But yeah, I just outbraked myself trying to push my car that little bit too much and clattered the back of him. No harm was done. I mean, we lost a little bit of time, but these Cortinas are so damn fast. We were quite a long way ahead of the 3rd and 4th place. So yeah, it was a very, very enjoyable race. I have to say there was a good battles going on at the front. Further back, there was less. I think there was quite a bit of damage on some of the cars, but yeah, it was a highly enjoyable race. These Cortinas are incredibly dominant. There was 3 wins out of 3 for them. Slightly different drivers, yes, but goddamn, these things are quick. Yeah, they're very, very good cars, and with the celebratory slide, the Cortina caused a big accident and killed the Aston Martin as well. But yeah, there we go. That was it for some B-class classic car racing. It was pretty good. I think the Cortinas were a little bit too dominant. If we were doing it again, they'd probably end up on the ban list as well. But never mind. There was still lots of good racing going on throughout all 3 of the races. Now, next week's FailRace versus the community is, or in fact, this week's, I always get this blooming confused, is going to be on Thursday, the 24th of October. It is going to be C-Class front-wheel drive cars. I thought it'd be interesting. You do something a little bit different. We very rarely see front-wheel drive cars in any of these events. So yeah, that's what we're going to restrict it to. You can as far as other upgrades goes, you can go for whatever you want. But yeah, the car has to be front-wheel drive. And we're staying with the low-class cars. It's much more fun driving low-class cars. You get better, closer racing. It also restricts the upgrades you can do, so you have to kind of make a choice. Do you go for power, do you go for straight line speed, or do you go for handling? Now, if you want to take part in this event, then you can go to our forums. I will put a link in the description. You can go there and you can find the FailRace versus the community section and the sign up bit, and that is where you go to sign up to take part. We do everything via the forums because it is much easier to keep track of stuff. It's much easier than any other method. So that's how we're doing things. And also, people, please watch the video all the way through. I don't know why I'm telling you, because you guys already are. But it get very annoying when people say, oh, how do you take part? When you don't even blooming watch the video to find out. So anyway, that is it for today, guys. So thank you very much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.